All right, guys, we're going for our second attempt here with doing some commentary action and giving you a preview of the extreme loop I got set up in my one of my training ground areas, I guess. Fortunate enough to have a local guy I met through wonderful Facebook. Yes, some people still use Facebook, and he invited me to come out and basically play around. He's like, I think you'll love the area I got. It's perfect for what you're into. He sent me a little GoPro clip, and it was actually last year I went out, first ride back after breaking my foot, tearing my MCL at Erzberg. I came to this spot and I knew it was good right away. It's actually not a huge piece of property, but I've kind of set up a nice loop here that is over 30 minutes long, and for the size of the property, it's pretty extensive loop considering what I can get out of it. So anyway, super fortunate to have friends like that are stoked on what they have and what I'm doing, and it's pretty cool because I'll be out doing my lap, doing all these fingers and going up these gnarly canyons, and I look down and he's behind me trying to make an attempt at different lines. So it's fun to at least go out and ride, and they may not be at the level I am, but it's cool to see the stoke that they're going out there and doing it. So anyways, back to the riding action here. I'm sitting down because I'm squidding out, but basically it's really important to kind of use the lower ground of the motor. A lot of the torque, that's honestly one of the main reasons why I ended up switching over to Sherco. Was I test rode the bike, and I think I came close right there that time, barely made it. But I test rode the bike once, and I was super impressed with the low end power of the bike. So with all the extreme type stuff I do, it's pretty much spot on. Really impressive. So through here, it's actually pretty tough right now because of all the leaves. So it's just it's wet underneath, leaves, it's pretty slick. Even with a gummy tire, it's still not super easy to hook up. So just kind of keep fighting my way all the way up through this. And I know a lot of you guys have probably seen the whole video already before, but I wanted to at least do all in one motion, just show you guys the whole course. So I really like this little line here. Somehow it was already naturally like a little goat path like that, so it was cool that is already built for us to go ride on. This is pretty loose and shaly coming down here. Got another guy on a Sherco Trials bike. He's going for it. He's waiting. He actually just ordered a updated 200. He should have got a Sherco, but I'm glad that there's people buying other bikes and kind of doing this whole extreme enduro type thing. So it's I came from a trials background, so it's awesome to see that another local guy's got a trials bike, and now he's going in a 200 because he wants a little bit more easier, manageable power to ride. And I've ridden some of the old school KTM 200s. My sister's had some for a while, and they're actually pretty killer bikes. People kind of turn their heads another way at a 200, but pretty impressive for what they are. So that was kind of the first main technical canyon. Nothing crazy, it's just a lot of really smaller, loose, never getting traction type scenarios. And so now we're opening up a little bit, but it's still kind of sketchy because there's a lot of little rocks that roll out, or it's slippery, a lot of the leaves. So it's sketchy if you've been pushing really hard through all the extreme stuff, a little bit tired, and want to go faster here. It's easy to make a mistake and go down. I've done it a couple times, so it flows pretty well through here. I kind of actually enjoy these little breaks that we have, that I've set up in this little loop.
Back down to second. Eyes are a little watery.
So this is like the second little finger that goes off on the trail, and it starts out pretty easy, to be honest. Not quite as steep as the other one, so you can carry a little bit more momentum through here. Flows pretty well. I've actually jumped across the right there. There's a big boulder. That's pretty sweet. So then up this little ledge here, keep going up. I think I actually messed this up today, or there's a rock in the way or something. Yeah, right in my line. So obviously I'm trying to ride this in. It's been a while, obviously, since I had the knee surgery and haven't been riding much. So the last time I was out, or the last little video I put out was my first time back here. So still kind of building my lines in again, but honestly I prefer it with a little more chaotic and not a burnt in line because it makes it tougher. So after last winter and beginning of this winter, a lot of the stuff has changed or it's different or rocks have moved. So it's good practice that things are always changing. And I kind of get bored with doing the same thing over and over. And honestly, I think that's why I enjoy riding hard enduro so much more. There's so much new things, so much more adventure. You can always do something else. Whereas, if I'm going to the motocross track for cross training, yeah, it's great, high intensity practice, but it's not my most favorite thing to do because you're doing the same thing lap after lap. And even with enduro cross, I kind of really enjoy the challenge of figuring out and trying to master the track. And you can always do little improvements here and there, but at the end of the day, it's the same kind of thing lap after lap, and it hurts because you're slamming into obstacles like as fast as you can, and it's not very comforting. So down a steep, pretty steep little hill there, and back onto the main loop that kind of runs to the center of the property. So that canyon's pretty tough. I kind of really enjoy the little single track coming back down along the creek. It's pretty fun and flowy, and there's one little tricky up that when I first made the trail, I really struggled there, and Kyle Redmond has done some training here with me as well, and that part literally kicked his butt. Like, he was dying right there and moving all the rocks out of the way. So now it's a perfect trail since Kyle got hung up there and fixed it all up for me. So now basically hopping straight into the main creek here. It's just kind of weaving my way in and out. This part's pretty tricky. I do a left foot plant here, bring the bike all the way back around, right foot on that super slippery log, and foot plant back the other way. So I like that spot. You kind of pick it apart. It's not super fast, but I don't know. Utilize the skills you learn, right? So 2 foot plants, 2 separate ways. Nice little foot plant right there again, crossing the creek. So honestly, it's a little overgrown. I mean, not that overgrown, but if I wanted to ride the main creek all the way up, that would probably be the best practice, but it's also really hard to do. So I don't know. I think this is a pretty good happy medium between super difficult and still have some flow. I don't like it when I'm just pushing the whole time. Maybe only 50-60% of the time.
Sometimes they get the best of me.
So right here, obviously I got hung up there just for a quick second. It's so deceiving because it looks flat. Because it looks flat. All the leaves are covering everything, but obviously the leaves are super wet and there's tons of rocks and roots all hidden. Even right here, there's a bunch of roots. It's pretty tricky. So in third gear, lugging through a lot of that stuff just so I'm not spinning the rear wheel and carrying a little more momentum. So now basically this course just keeps dropping in and out
kind of tall for here, but
up the main creek for a bit. So we're slowly coming up on the I guess we'll call it the farthest north point of the property. So maneuvering my way up through some of these boulders. Nice little ledge right there, and like I said earlier, you can see that I'm just not riding the creek all the way up. Maybe I should for better practice, but it's good to kind of get a little bit of everything in. And I feel like with the way this loop is set up, you can get a little bit more intensity going. So that's a thing I've noticed with other people who go out and ride extreme, or they kind of just go out and ride a canyon and take their time and waiting for their buddies and BSing and talking about what they just did. And at a motocross track, when people are training, they never do that. They're just putting out their motos. So I've kind of tried to take that whole doing my laps and hammering it out perspective and turn it into riding hard enduro type stuff. So that's why I've kind of created these different loops. I've got another spot I ride this similar terrain but steeper and not as much of a creek, more like hillsides and rocks, and I've set up a similar type loop, and There's also,
Have yet
you
to
know,
make
obviously the
this part?
type of days where I go out and
Unfortunately,
it's a lower intensity type day, but it's, you know, I'm out riding all stinking day. So this section right here, I was cheating the other day and skipping it, and you know, it's better practice to stay in the creek. So it's really tricky. There's a couple big holes there, and I thought about committing all the way, but it's pretty tricky, to be honest. So, you know, you saw there how I turned off the bike, readjusted the rear wheel to get it set up on that big rock. So I had a good spot to start off from. So now basically got to the end of the property, bombing back down the main trail here, and finding my next little finger to hop off and get stuck somewhere on the side of the hill. So it's pretty fun riding this stuff, even without doing the extreme. But it's really tricky to go fast. There's some little things you want to jump, but there's a tree on the other side or a hole, so could be a little dangerous. Yawning a little bit. It's kind of late here when I'm going through this. Oh, I remember that. I was really proud earlier today when I did that. You can't tell on camera, but I popped into that left-hand turn and did a little nosebleed and kicked the rear end over to set myself up. So this part here is relatively new, and you know, just stuff to mess you up. That's basically what I'm looking for when I'm making extreme enduro stuff. I don't like getting anything super dangerous or like a do or die type situation. I've done a lot of extreme riding in Arizona and other places like that with like Taylor Robert, and you know, Taylor's got some gnarly trails, but they scare me. I'm mostly know I'm capable of making them all, but if we're, you know, riding with someone who's not quite up to that level, and there's so much traction there, you know, you can send it up some really big ledges, and it's do or die, and it could be really sketchy if you don't make it or you're destroying the bike. And I feel like with the stuff I have here, it's super challenging, and I don't know, to me, on camera right now watching it, it looks pretty challenging, but I feel like I don't really have anything where if I don't make it, I'm going to get hurt or the bike's going to tumble and break everything. I just put tons of dents in my header pipe. That's about it. So one thing to say about today was it hasn't rained since last time I came, but it's kind of tucked away in the Santa Cruz Mountains with redwoods and other trees. So when it's foggy, a lot of the stuff gets stuck to the leaves basically, and then the leaves get heavy with all the water, and it's almost like raining. So it could even be summertime sometimes in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and because it's foggy all the time, since we're not too far from the coast, it actually holds moisture kind of late into the year. So even though California never rains forever, and then we have an epic winter and then crappy summer again, I can actually get into some spots with some decent dirt just because
honestly, the first time I made that,
the heavy tree coverage and all the fog. So it mimics raining, helps out a little bit. But if I want to do any other type of off-road riding, I'm pretty much screwed. Extremes or trials is all I got. So this bit here is completely new. Another little nosebleed right there to get set up for this. So like I said, every time I go out and ride, I try and add one more section in. And even today, after filming this clip, I went out and extended one of my hill climbs. I felt like, you know, I'm planning on doing Romaniacs this year, so I want to have a lot of hillside and cambering practice. So I added more and more just because I felt like it was too easy. I was getting up it too quick. So, you know, there could be a hill climb at Romaniacs where you're going up for an hour, so I got to step my practice up so I'm covered. So that was a fun little technical bit there. Basically now I turn around, go over a couple logs here. Obviously they're nice and slippery. I was kind of sad, I'm not impressed with myself today, because right here I added this bit, and you see those roots right ahead. I wanted to just launch across that pad and I guess splatter that gap to the other side, but I don't know. I was with other people, but they were doing their own thing, and I didn't want to risk it. It was slippery. Like I said, I'm making excuses to this point, but I'll do it next time, and I'll make sure someone's there to film it. So that's that. That's a pretty tough move I did there with the front end kind of up against, high against it with no run. It's honestly basically a trials maneuver, but I have the bike in first since I have no run. Front end's in the air, and I kind of lean back, rev the bike, kind of dump the clutch, and lean forward at the same time to get popped up there. And as soon as I get up it, I basically kind of have to feather the clutch so I don't loop out, because honestly the front end got up a little higher than I was anticipating there. So that's the thing I noticed with a lot of people are learning how to do a lot of this extreme type riding, is the fact that they'll loop out or stuff just because they have the technique figured out how to get up the obstacles, but then they forget that the bike wants to take off and there's still a flywheel and you're going to be looping out on top. So now we're kind of moving on to my initial game plan for like Romaniacs type training, but obviously now there's a big old rut, so it makes life a little bit easier. So wasn't super realistic. So later in the day, actually, right where this tree is right to the right, I started hillsiding up high to the right there and created a whole new line that was pretty tough. It took me about 4 or 5 runs to get up this one section. And that's even to get there was really tricky and had to do some pushing. So I guess I'm doing the right thing if I'm struggling. Hoping to be as ready as I can for the extreme races this year. It's been, I don't know, it's been really good and bad at the same time. It was super unfortunate getting hurt and being off the bike for essentially over 5 months. And then even when I was back on the bike, it was just to try and get seat time. I wasn't even anywhere near where I was just because I wasn't comfortable. Still had all the skills, but now I'm just basically playing catch up at this point. And, being with Sherco, I'm super excited to do more of the extreme stuff. It's what I enjoy doing the most. So it's been comforting knowing that they've been supporting me through this injury, and now I can put all my focus on basically getting as ready as I can for these extreme races. And we still got plenty of time to figure out Enduro Cross and Super Enduro for the future. But with, these races are all pretty important to me, so I want to definitely make a point when I come back to racing that I'm here to make mean business, and I'm serious about it. So right back there, I took a quick break, a little sip of water. It's kind of tiring stuff, let's be honest. And I did have a couple of my good buddies come, and they've done a little bit of extreme stuff throughout the years, and they're pretty decent technical riders. And I had them come out before I even had as much stuff in this loop as I do now, and it was pretty funny to see them because I know they were struggling and hurting, but it was good for them, Everyone needs a challenge. So this is a super cool spot that was in my filming last time, and then the battery died. So super slick, angled logs everywhere. I got hung up pretty bad here today. I forget what happened, but this part's really tricky to get through, and everything's on an angle. Everything's in the air, elevated, and off cambered. It's not flat. The logs are at an angle, so it's pretty tricky to get through there. Obviously no bark on that one log I just got over, so this one's really sketchy as well because down off to the right there, it's a pretty big drop back into the creek. This is decent sized log, so you don't want to mess this up at all. So luckily I got over it there pretty good. And climbing through some loose rocks. A lot of this stuff right here is similar to some of the things you'll see at Tennessee Knockout. Just leaves covering stupid little rocks that jack you up everywhere, and they're all slippery and covered in moss. And got to stick there in my tire. So this part here, it's kind of slow and tedious, and a bunch of loose rocks and logs, so it's definitely good practice. But as you can see, probably the most dangerous thing on this course so far was just that log, that right back there where I had to get up over it, and if I went right, things would get ugly pretty quick. Come back here, basically cruising for a sec. This is basically one of the parts where you're taking a breather, relaxing, trying to calm down again, and right back into it, but this part right here isn't too technical. This is actually one of the original type loops I made out here. Just started adventuring and putting things together, and not going too far from the main creek, but basically exploring. And this has evolved a lot right here with time. This line here is really good right here now, but see that big root right there? It's pretty sketchy to get over it. But when I first made that, it was really, really difficult, and now everything's starting to get packed in. Believe it or not, right there, that little tiny log messes me up every time. It looks really small, but the core is still there, so it's super stiff and kind of undercut, and I almost go over the bars there every time. I have to do a little bit of wheelie. There's the owner hanging out. He's probably doing part of his loop. Now he's checking out what I'm doing right here. So this part right here is really technical. You got to cross these couple rocks in the creek, and you can either shoot right up that bank afterwards or turn around, and barely kind of made it, actually pretty much made it perfect there today, but a lot of times I won't even go for it right off the bat just because it's more time lost if I don't make it on the first attempt, and I got to go turn back around. And there's a way to line up for with a straight shot, so it's not too bad, but pretty impressive to go right out of the creek. Here's a nice double blip right over a log there. It's pretty undercut, but not too bad. Hit it in second gear, and then right here it gets super narrow and actually really sketchy dropping in. I don't like dropping in right there, so I shift to first, and right around here is probably where I keep denting my header pipe. Boom, on that log with a rock right before it. Down through this little thing. It's not too steep through here, to be honest, but this up right here is really sketchy, really tricky to hit right, because you got to shoot up, and then it keeps going up a little bit, really narrow. I had James Flynn, who races Enduro Cross and some of the hard Enduro stuff. He came and stayed at my house, and he was stressing out on that obstacle because he just didn't trust it, but he ended up making it up it. It's just, I think it looks worse than what it is, which is how it is sometimes. Taking a quick sip. My mouth's getting a little dry here. So back into the main creek, and then we're going to cut across here to another super awesome wet slippery log section. I love this part. I've seen this is where people honestly struggle the most. James Flynn is taking a bath in the creek right there before. It was pretty hilarious. Ryan Sipes struggled here, and today I actually surprised myself. Shot right up and just carried the wheelie and had to put my foot down. I thought I was going to loop out and right back over the top log. So I have definitely struggled my fair share amount right there. Basically getting off the bike, pushing sideways, struggling. I kind of got it figured out now, luckily, but it's always kind of funny when I take someone ride with me and I take them right to that spot and watch them just, they're not too happy when they get there. Let's be honest, the spacing is really weird and awkward, and
a little more than halfway.
angle blocks. There's a really super steep drop in right here. I actually want to ride it reverse out of the creek. I'm just too afraid, because if I don't make it, it's going to suck, and it's obviously, if it kind of looks a little bit steep on camera, then you know it's super steep in real life, so don't want to mess with that. And kind of riding along the edge of the creek here, coming along here. I don't remember, this wasn't in my last video, so this is probably, all this stuff here is probably new for you guys right now. So riding along the creek, gotta be careful. There's a sketchy root that sticks out right there you don't want to hit. I'm just being lazy at this point by staying out of the water. Yeah, cheater lines. A-line, we'll call them A-lines. Yeah. This part right here is pretty tricky up this little embankment. I've made it pretty much every time, but I've come close to not making it a couple times. So kind of weave through some of these redwood trees and other trees here before dropping back into the creek. Pretty cool about this property is though they used to do a bunch of logging and stuff here back in the day, so there's a kind of remnants of old roads and stuff through the center of this property. It's pretty awesome. This part right here is my favorite / worst section of the whole course. It's super gnarly, very limited spacing, but I think it's probably why I don't like this. There's not enough room to get by. You can even see there's a piece of metal right there to the left from an old, probably an old logging or rail car or something tucked away back in here. So I've actually done this section before in less than a minute or about a minute, just riding up this bit, but it changed so much from last winter. And coming up here in a second, there's a really awkward, weird spot where the bike's kind of straight up in the air, and I'm trying not to ruin my swing arm or my rotor, and I'm basically wedged in there, and you know, it got eroded away. Before there was not, it wasn't as crappy of spacing, and I can actually kind of wiggle my way and ride up it, and now it's pretty much impossible. Yeah, right here is that spot. You can kind of tell the bike doesn't fit. I'm basically standing it up straight up right now, and one foot on the rock, my elbow's pretty much dragging against the bank, and there's no space anymore. It's ruined. I gotta fix that part of the trail. Maybe I'll try and move those big logs to the right, go up the other side of that rock instead of skirting around it. So this is kind of where my footage came back on the other day. I flip it around right here, and there's a really steep, short, abrupt embankment to get up. It's pretty tricky, and when I'm looking at it on the bike, I feel like it's not going to go, and then somehow I ride up it. So it's nice that things work out that way sometimes. But when I originally started going up this spot right here, I wanted to keep going up the creek, but it was so steep I wouldn't have been able to get out of there and get back down. So unfortunately I had to make the trail a little bit shorter than I wanted it to, but oh well, it is what it is. This part right here is just really steep and off camber and sketchy, and today it was a little bit muddy and wet. There's a root right in front of the front tire right there. You see a little wheelie right there to get over it. That thing could easily catch your front tire and throw you down in the creek. So these are kind of the spots where I feel like you need to pay the most attention. It's not super difficult, but something can easily take you out of contention and cause you to fall over or watch the front end. So it was really tricky with that today, just because it was so wet. A lot of slippery logs on cambers. It's not a good recipe. This part right here is kind of cool, dipping underneath that redwood tree. Except unfortunately today I dumped my foot in the water. Bad timing on that part, because other than that I think my feet would have been pretty much dry. It is strange though, because last year, I remember around this time, I wasn't riding any hard enduro stuff. I was focusing on super enduro. But the owner was sending me photos of the creek, and the water was significantly higher. So I feel like in California we've got a lot of rain this winter, but just not consistent enough or big enough storms. I don't know. It's kind of weird. So the riding conditions have been absolutely unreal, just like perfect, because we've been getting the right amount of rain, but definitely I think we were getting some more last season just because this creek was flowing a lot better. So now at this point, basically come to the southernmost point of the property, and today I'm going to do this twice for you guys because I messed this next part up. I wasn't happy with it. You'll see right here in a second. Oof. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what happened right there. Honestly, I feel like it's pretty much all solid rock, and it's kind of out of camber, so I went to ride across that edge, and I think the front end just slid a little bit, and then the rear decided to follow in suit, so it kind of definitely messed me up, and I had to do a ride for you guys if I was going to do it, you know what I mean?
Back around.
All right, I'm back. I had to take a break for a second there. I got tired of talking. So one thing I do want to take note is that I'm running different handlebar setup than last time, and personally, I actually felt a lot more comfortable riding today. Of course, I had people talking some smack in the comments. They were just claiming that I rode it better on a KTM, but they're just jealous. So it is what it is. But to be honest, I actually felt way more comfortable today. Went to a little bit lower bar bend. I just guesstimated at the first order up from ODI, and ended up getting to bend with about I think they were 7 or 8 mil lower, and had more of a sweep to them. So it just seemed to feel me a little better. So one thing to mention, a lot of people are always asking me, taller bars, you're a taller rider, you need taller bars, you need bar risers, and it's just so common all the time, people asking me about that. And so if you watch this, just to give you a heads up, I went to lower bars and I felt way more comfortable riding on the bike, so that might be saying something. And back to that section, I did a little bit better that time, so I was content with that. Didn't have to turn around this time. And now we're kind of coming back into where we started, to be honest. We've been through last little bit of trail here, and we're about to pop out on the hill climb where I started. This is the hill climb. Yeah, I did some filming stuff with Ryan Sipes, and we were just launching that all the way up to flat, like almost to where the redwood trees are. And I think I got a video somewhere on my Instagram where I'm just like, Ryan rode around it and I jumped it, and I was like above his head, just kind of flying through the air. So it was a super cool little jump, but I don't want to do that every time. It's not fun landing to flat. So over here to the right, through that creek, it's a pretty big drop off that rock into the water there, but I've tried going straight up that creek right there, and I can only do it certain times of the year because other times the water is super deep. So I'm pretty fortunate right now, the water isn't that deep. So that's another reason why a lot of this, the trail right now kind of skirts around the edge of the main water, because a lot of times it's almost impassable. So, there's even been water running down this bit before when I've been riding. So, right now for you guys, I would say it's prime condition, but to be honest, sometimes it's almost slicker if there's no water coming down, because the mud tracks on the rocks, and if it's raining or if you're in the creek, it's actually washing the mud off the rocks and making your life a little bit easier, which, most of the time people think if it's, the wet parts are the worst parts, but if it's all mud on the rocks, you're not going to hook up, versus a clean rock with water on it. So at this point, basically just kind of cruising back now, and hope you guys enjoyed some of the commentary. It's hard for me to talk about what's going on and miss the next part, but we're learning on how this process works, so hope you enjoy it.
Great time.